Hello everyone, it's Heath with the Music Technology Teacher Network, www.mutechteachernet.com. And in this video, I'm going to be wrapping up this series I've been doing about the Novation Launchpad Mini and how it can be used in your classroom as a general MIDI controller. So you can use the Launchpad with any DAW that accepts MIDI signals, so GarageBand, Logic. You could use it for the web-based or the cloud-based DAW Soundtrap, which I use pretty extensively with my own students. So the Launchpad Mini is really an incredibly flexible device that can be used in a lot of different ways with your students. So in this last part of the Launchpad Mini, I'm going to be focused on the customization option that's called Scales Mode, which I think is a really cool option you can use with the Launchpad and really presents a lot of possibilities for you to use it for lesson ideas and teaching different content areas when it comes to creating music as far as tonality and modes and chords are concerned. So you can hit melody and harmony with this. So if you've made it through the first three parts of these videos and you've hung around to get to part 4, first of all, thank you. I hope that you find this information really helpful for you and your students. So let's dig into it, the Scales Mode with the Launchpad Mini. So to do this, from the Components platform, I'm going to go back into New Custom Mode and select Scales Keyboard and drag this over. It's just going to give me a single line. So this is not going to be a chromatic layout. Notice over here the root node, and this is true with the others too. You could change the root node of a layout to whatever chromatic note you want to. So right now the pink notes, which we would consider the root notes, are C, but you could change that and put it in the key of D, E, F, whatever. And you can also select your octave. Now, here's what kind of gets cool. Under Scale, you can select a mode for that scale to be in. And here are all of your options you can choose from. So you can make this minor, you can make it major, all of these different modes. The bottom half here, you get more exotic modes that you can play in. The Todi Marva modes are traditional Indian music, Ukrainian and Hungarian minor. Maybe I'll do another episode and we'll dig into some of these exotic scales and what they sound like. So, but just for the purpose of demonstrating, I'm going to make this one major. And then let's add another one by clicking and dragging. This one will be minor. I'm going to keep them all in the same octave for right now. So for this, let me switch over to blues. So with the blues scale is going to drop the 2nd and the 6th scale degree, but then it's also going to add in a chromatic passing tone between the 4th and the 5th scale degree. So instead of having a 7-note scale, you're going to have a 6-note scale, which is why it's 1 note shorter than the other 2 examples we have already. We'll add another one and say, let's do bebop Dorian, which actually extends beyond an octave because it's basically a blues scale that adds a few more chromatic passing tones that is actually going to extend it beyond a 7-pitch scale. Maybe we'll try Mixolydian. I always like that Mixolydian mode. And you can fill up every line on the grid with different scales. And we'll go ahead and throw in one of these more. Oh, there's a whole tone scale. And then let's say we'll do the Marva. So from here, I'm going to go ahead and send this out to the Launchpad. I'm going to put it in that user button, which is slot 3, overwrite custom mode. Now, if I go back to GarageBand, if I play the one here on the bottom, so just from left to right, it gives me that major scale. Now, if I go to the line above it, I'm in that minor mode. Third line, I believe that's where we put our blues scale. Our bebop Dorian. So yeah, so you can customize your scales that way. To remove them, you just click on the line to remove the scale. I really like working in minor blues with the like pentatonic minor blues scale with the kids because there's a lot of different things you could do with it. So you could even set this up where let's say we'll do our blues scale, and we'll do that in the third octave. So I'm going to do another octave of the blues scale, but I'm going to put this octave above. Blues, and we'll go to octave 5. So I can put 3 octaves of the blues scale here with the empty keys that I have above that. I could put a drum grid if I wanted to, or I could just leave it like it is. We'll do 3 octaves of the blues scale. So now, here, so it's a great way for students to be able to improvise melodies, say in a pentatonic blues scale, without having to get so bogged down in the theory and which key do I have to find to play it that way. So I think that could be a really useful thing. You know, some other ideas that you could be used, even if you wanted to study different kinds of scales, you could go back and put in 3 or 4 different modes, different scales. If you wanted to then you could pull up some examples, say, of different music that uses these different modes and what that sounds like. So there's a lot of possibilities, I think, with this customizable scale keyboard, where you can, generate a lot of different kind of lessons around, melodies and tonality and what it sounds like in different settings with music. The last thing I will go over just briefly, you do have this one that says MIDI note. And with this, if you drag it over, you can see it is just a single pad on the grid. So this might be useful if you ever got into maybe sampling sounds with your students. In GarageBand, you could record a sound, whether it could be a vocalization or it could be, some kind of sort of Foley sound you created in class. And then in GarageBand, you can assign that sample to a key on the keyboard. And as long as you know what that key is, you can drag this over, select the note wherever you have that program sampled. And so for just that one key, anytime the student hit that key, it would trigger that one single note. Say, for example, if you use that for, recorded sample. So that is how you use your MIDI note. Now, the other thing that I do want to go over that I think is pretty super cool is this one that says custom keystroke. You can click on this and drag this over. So I'm a big proponent of using keyboard shortcuts in really any kind of program that I'm using. So with your Apple computers, that's going to be a lot of times you use that command key in addition to some other letter on the keyboard to execute, commonly used editing tools and such. So for example, I drag this over, and then here in the box it says click to assign a keystroke. So I can make that keystroke my copy button. So if I hold down Command and type the letter C, which is the keyboard command for copy, now if I hit that button while I'm working in the DAW and I click that button on my Launchpad, it's going to automatically copy the region or whatever I have selected. I could add another keystroke. And of course, if you're going to copy, then the next option is to paste, which is Command V. So I could put that right next to it. I could do another custom keystroke and say we'll make this one Command X. So with that, once I upload it to the Mini, this is going to, when I press that on the Launchpad, that's going to copy. This button is going to paste. This button is going to cut or delete whatever I have selected. And whatever DAW you're using that uses custom keystrokes, you can program your Launchpad to do that. So for example, in Soundtrap, To split a region is Command E. So I could hold down the Command key, type the letter E, and now that is assigned to Command E. Another key that is used a lot in my lab is the Option key for our Mac users. So when you hold down the Option key, click on a region, you drag it and drop it, it automatically and very quickly will copy and paste that region. So if I want that key to be Option, for example, I can just click on my Option key, and now this key is going to give me Option when I use it on my Launchpad. Now with each of these keys, you can also color code them. So I can make this one purple, say this one is pink. So if that'll help identify which is which, you can further color code your keys this way, which I think is pretty cool. So yeah, so all of these, creating the custom modes for your Launchpad layout is, I think, a really super cool thing about it. You can, as you create different custom modes, you can save them over here under your custom modes. And again, when you get to a point and you want to share that with your students, you're simply going to download that as a MIDI data file that you're going to send out to your students to upload to use in their Launchpads. Now, when I say it's a MIDI file, it's not a traditional MIDI file. It's kind of like key mapping. That's essentially what it is it's kind of an auto key mapping for some preset layouts that you can use to customize your Launchpad. So that is super cool. Well, I think that's going to wrap up this series on the Launchpad Mini MIDI controller. And again, one of the things I think is so great about this is that you can use this MIDI controller for something well beyond just Ableton, even though it is designed for Ableton. But for my students who are beginning students or middle school students, I think it's great because they're already going to get used to this device, even though we're primarily using it in GarageBand and Soundtrap. But to get the full capabilities of the device is when you move into Logic or into Ableton. And when you do that, as the students move to a more intermediate or advanced level, they're already going to be very familiar and comfortable with that device. So I think it's a great device that will grow with the students as the students continue to grow in their audio production. Again, if you've watched the video this far, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And it would mean a lot if you're enjoying these videos, if they are helpful to you, if you would hit that subscribe button, and also to tell your friends and colleagues about it who might be interested in finding these videos to be helpful. I'm not sure how much more content I'm going to be able to upload in the coming weeks, because next week we are going to be welcoming our students back for the new school year. And as I start to teach, my time to do these kind of things begins to become a little more limited, but I'm going to work really hard to do that. If there are things that come up that will be helpful to you or topics, let me know. Shoot me an email, heath@mutecteachernet.com, and I would be glad to try to put something together that would address some things that would be helpful to you. As always, again, I would encourage you to visit the website. I have lots of resources there, www.mutecteachernet.com. You can find my book, Music Technology 101, that's published by Hal Leonard Company. You can find that on the Hal Leonard website, or you can find it on Amazon. Just search Music Technology 101, and it should be there. In the meantime, for all of my colleagues that are starting a new school year, I want to wish you the very best of luck. Enjoy teaching your students how to create and be expressive by creating music. In the meantime, thanks for watching the Music Technology Teacher Network. Advocate, support, inspire, and create.